Jax's revenge domain. The moment Scott Palmer tried to grab my laptop, I knew he was about to destroy his own life. "Hand it over, Gary," he said, pointing at the matte black government terminal sitting on my desk. "Asset retention policy. I'm Gary Walsh, 48 years old and in 23 years of handling classified systems, 8 in the Navy, 15 at Patriot Defense. I'd never seen someone so eager to commit federal crimes." "Scott," I said calmly, "you sure about this hardware?" "It's company property now," he snapped. "You're fired. Security will escort you out." I looked at the SIPR terminal in my hands. Heavy, reinforced ports, biometric scanner requiring fingerprint and retinal match, one of only 2 authorized for our Pentagon contracts. Scott had no idea what he was demanding. This disaster started 30 minutes earlier in our conference room with Scott's optimization meeting. Stale donuts, burnt coffee, and that familiar smell of corporate fear. 20 employees packed in like cattle, waiting for the axe to fall. Scott Palmer had been our VP of technology for exactly 3 weeks. Stanford MBA, 28 years old, teeth white enough to signal aircraft. In those 3 weeks, he'd used Paradigm Shift 52 times. Yes, I counted. And failed to successfully log into a single admin console. I stood in back near the server room door, my natural habitat. That's where I belonged, close to the hardware that actually mattered. Scott was at the front, tapping his microphone and sending feedback screeching through the speakers. "Team, rockstars, family," Scott began with his practiced smile. "We're entering a new era. Cloud first, lean forward, disruptive innovation." I checked my watch. 9:04 a.m., 6 minutes before I needed to run the daily encryption cycle. "To get there," Scott continued, voice dropping to that fake sincere tone, "we need to trim the fat, shed the legacy weight anchoring us to the past." Dead silence. HVAC humming. Someone's nervous stomach growling. "Gary," he said, pointing directly at me with actual finger guns. "You're a legend here. Really. But your role is redundant. We're moving to automated cloud infrastructure. The on-premises hardware is dinosaur tech. Today is your last day." People stared. I saw pity in the older administrators' eyes. They knew dinosaur tech was actually hardened infrastructure mandated by the Pentagon. But I didn't blink, just felt cold clarity wash over me like spotting critical errors in server logs. "Is that so?" I asked. "It is," Scott smirked. "HR has your packet. Oh, and Gary, leave the company laptop. Asset retention. Most people would have lost it." Shouted about 15 years of service, weekends patching security holes, holidays missed keeping networks running. I almost did. Then I looked at what he wanted. Not a standard Dell. A heavy matte black unit with a biometric scanner. Our SIPR terminal. Classified government hardware worth more than Scott's car. "You sure about this laptop?" I stepped forward. "This isn't standard equipment. Company property," he snapped. "We'll repurpose it for interns. Repurpose classified Pentagon hardware for interns." The stupidity was breathtaking. So here we were in my office, Scott demanding federal property like it was a stapler. "Scott," I said, "this terminal requires secret clearance to operate. You don't have clearance." "I don't need clearance for company hardware," he said, grabbing for it. I pulled back. "Read the warning labels first. There are no warning labels. It's just a laptop." I flipped it over, showing him the metal plate riveted into the chassis. "Property of U.S. government, Department of Defense. Unauthorized access punishable by 20 years imprisonment." Scott barely glanced at it. "That's just scare tactics. Corporate legal puts those on everything. Hand it over." I realized he genuinely didn't understand. In his world, everything was negotiable. Every rule was a suggestion. He'd never dealt with actual federal law. "Okay," I said, setting it on my desk. "It's yours. Badge 2. Badge," he added. I unclipped my security badge, the one with holographic stripes for SCIF access, and dropped it next to the terminal. "Good luck," I said, walking toward the door. "We make our own luck," Scott replied, already turning to his next victim. I left the building calm as could be, hands steady, heart rate normal. I was in diagnostic mode because Scott didn't know that laptop was tracked by Pentagon systems. Every power on logged, every failed login recorded, every connection monitored. Sitting in my truck, I watched through glass walls as Scott gestured wildly in the conference room, probably explaining his cost savings. Through my windshield, he looked like a man celebrating while standing on a landmine. I didn't go home immediately. Drove to Miller's Diner, 30 minutes away. Ordered coffee and pie, sat for 2 hours just breathing. The timestamps needed to solidify. Logs had to show clear separation between my termination and whatever Scott was about to do. My home office is my sanctuary. Clean cables, no dust, 3 monitors humming perfectly. Everything the chaotic corporate world isn't. I sat down, feeling the morning's insult settle. Redundant. After 23 years, I was redundant because someone in designer jeans said so. I opened my personal laptop and accessed the government portal. Ugly gray website from 1998 with more security layers than Fort Knox. 2-factor authentication, hardware token, 32-character password. Access granted. Asset status page loaded. 2 SIPR terminals listed. Terminal 1, offline, safe in our server room. Terminal 2, active. My stomach dropped. Terminal 2 was the laptop I'd given Scott. Should have gone to sleep mode when my biometrics cleared the area for more than 10 minutes, unless he forced a reboot. Real-time logs populated. Amber text against black background, 11:42 a.m. Hard reset initiated, 11:45 a.m. BIOS challenge failed, 11:46 a.m. BIOS challenge failed, 11:50 a.m. Admin override attempted. User, Spalmer_admin. He was trying to brute force a federally encrypted machine with his corporate credentials, like opening a bank vault with a library card. Every failed attempt logged locally and at the Pentagon. He was flagging himself with every wrong password, waving a digital banner. Hi, I'm unauthorized and touching classified material. Then the log color changed to red. 12:05 p.m. Perimeter breach alert. Intrusion detected. Scott had connected it to the internet. SIPR terminals are air-gapped devices. They never, ever touch public networks. By plugging it into office Wi-Fi, Scott had just exposed a classified endpoint to every hacker on the planet. This wasn't a firing offense anymore. This was federal agents in windbreakers showing up at your house. I had a choice. Call him, warn him to unplug before automated sweepers found it. Save his career and our company's $180 million Pentagon contract. I reached for my phone, dialed the office. Thank you for calling Patriot Defense. I hung up. Redundant, I said aloud. I'm redundant. If I was redundant, my warnings were too. Instead, I opened email and typed my handler's address. Agent Stephen Ross, Pentagon Inspector General with no sense of humor and less patience for incompetence. Subject, notice of status change / potential asset compromise. Agent Ross, effective 0900 hours today, my employment with Patriot Defense Systems was terminated. I was ordered to surrender custody of SIPR Terminal Delta 7791 Alpha to Mr. Scott Palmer, VP Technology, despite verbal warning regarding chain of custody protocols. I am observing erratic activity on the asset beacon. I am no longer on premises and cannot intervene. Please advise. Gary Walsh. I hit send. Military bureaucracy's beauty is documentation. I'd done my duty, reported separation and asset location. Whatever happened next was 100% on Scott. I refreshed the log page. 12:15 p.m. Directory structure accessed via guest protocol. He'd bypassed the login using some consumer. Windows exploit. What he didn't know was the machine was recording every keystroke while tracing his location. He thought he'd cracked it. I could picture him high-fiving his team. Look, Gary locked it down, but I got in. I'm a genius. He was browsing honeypot files, opening folders labeled Confidential Budget and Project Alpha. Empty decoys, digital flypaper designed to catch unauthorized users. Then I saw metadata for an uploaded file. defense_pitch_deck_final_v3.pptx. 47 megabytes. Scott wasn't just looking. He was using the classified terminal as storage for his own presentation, treating Pentagon hardware like a USB stick. You didn't just touch the stove, Scott. You climbed inside the oven. To understand his predicament, you need to know how I got hired. 7 years ago, Patriot Defense landed a massive Pentagon contract processing Special Operations Command transaction data, the kind of money buying executives' vacation homes. But that money came with requirements. We had to maintain localized, hardened infrastructure for data validation. No cloud, no AWS, no shortcuts, just steel and concrete in locked rooms, managed by someone with proper clearance. That's me. I wasn't hired for personality or Excel skills. I was hired because I hold secret clearance with polygraph backing. I am the human requirement for their revenue stream. Our old CTO Marcus understood this. Guy looked like he slept in server racks, but respected the hardware. When I said no, it wasn't suggestion, it was physics. Gary is the wall, Marcus used to say. We don't drill holes in walls. Then Marcus retired to Montana Horse Ranch, and the board wanted fresh energy. They wanted disruption. Enter Scott Palmer. I remember his first week, walked into my converted storage closet office next to the server room. I needed hardware proximity, and wrinkled his nose. Little dark, isn't it? He asked, sipping green juice costing more than my hourly rate. Keeps heat down, I said, not looking up. Right. Gary, I'm seeing hardware dependency in your sector. We need to virtualize this. Move it to the lake. The lake? Data lake. The cloud. We need agility. Can't virtualize SIPR terminals. They're air-gapped by federal mandate. He rolled his eyes. Everything can be virtualized. You legacy IT types, so attached to your boxes, like collecting vinyl records. That moment I decided if this man fell off a cliff, I wouldn't throw him rope. Over following months, Scott chipped away. Fired my junior admin for refusing unauthorized monitoring software. Cut spare parts budget. Called the server room the museum. I took it. Documented every denied request, every policy violation, every sarcastic email. Guys like Scott float upward until they hit altitude where oxygen runs out. Never thought he'd fire the clearance holder. Back in present, I watched honeypot activity. Scott was exploring Project Ghost, gigabytes of random noise I'd created that looked like encrypted code to amateurs. I remembered last week's conversation. Scott bragging about pitching Lockheed Martin, needing something sexy to show military-grade capabilities. Now, seeing that pitch deck on the secure drive, I realized his plan. Use the SIPR terminal as a prop. Walk into contractor meetings with mysterious government hardware and claim, "Look what I built." He wasn't just incompetent. He was suicidal. My phone buzzed. Northern Virginia area code. Gary? Dry, gravelly voice belonging to someone who'd seen too many security breaches. Agent Ross. Got your email. Seeing unusual telemetry from Terminal 2. Device in your possession? Negative. Terminated this morning. Device confiscated by Scott Palmer against my advisement. Heavy keyboard clacking. He confiscated a SIPR terminal. Does he have encryption keys? No, guest session only. But he's connected to commercial internet and loading personal files. More typing. Seeing packet matches. He's uploading presentations. File headers contain defense contract integration. Pitching Lockheed tomorrow? That's the plan. He wants to demo live classified hardware to third-party vendors. Ross sounded almost impressed by the stupidity. That's significant breach territory. Protocol says brick the device immediately. Wait, I said. This was the pivot. If they destroyed it remotely, Scott would claim defective hardware. Blame me. He'd survive. Brick it now, you lose evidence of intent. He'll claim ignorance. Let him walk into that meeting. You have espionage and fraud. Dead to rights. Silence. When's the meeting? Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Conference room B. You have schedule access. I built the calendar server. I have access to everything. All right. We'll hold fire. But Gary, you're reactivated. Consultant status. Temporary clearance override as of now. Monitor the asset. Ensure no data leaves. If he tries emailing anything, kill the connection. Understood. And Gary, we need on-site witness. Chain of custody verification when we move in. I'm fired. They won't let me in. They won't have choice. Team's ready. 1 p.m. tomorrow. Line went dead. By 9 a.m. next morning, Patriot Defense was digitally burning. I sat at my kitchen table with good coffee watching help desk tickets cascade like red waterfall on my tablet. Ticket number 847, CFO can't access payroll. Ticket number 848, VPN, tunnel down. Ticket number 849, urgent, CEO, email bouncing. Scott didn't understand that legacy systems require daily maintenance. Our authentication servers run morning handshake requiring manual approval from lead administrator. That's me. Since I wasn't there to approve, servers assumed hostile takeover and locked everything down. Scott was about to learn that expertise isn't optional. My phone buzzed. Linda from accounting. Gary? Oh my God, she whispered from what sounded like a bathroom stall. It's the apocalypse here. Nobody can log in. Printers are spitting solid black pages. The coffee machine is showing error codes I've never seen. Sounds rough, I said, buttering toast. Scott's running around screaming that you sabotaged everything. He's calling it a logic bomb. Says he's going to sue you. Predictable. What's he doing now? He's in the conference room with his people, trying to prep for the Lockheed meeting. But Gary? He's using that weird black laptop because it's the only computer that works. Perfect irony. The SIPR terminal worked because it wasn't connected to the company network I'd supposedly sabotaged. Scott was fleeing the burning building by hiding inside the bomb. Linda, I said, take a long lunch today. Go to that salad place you like. Why? Trust me. Stay away from conference room B this afternoon. Gary, are you coming back? Everyone's saying we need you. Not in the way you think. I hung up and checked my screen. New alert from the terminal, 10:30 a.m. External projector connected via HDMI. Scott was doing a dry run. I clicked remote desktop view, strictly for auditing purposes. Window opened, showing his screen. PowerPoint slide titled Future Warfare Financial Analytics with Proprietary Technology, developed by Scott Palmer in bold letters. He'd placed a text box over the property of US Gov watermark. Click. Screenshot saved. That's fraud. Then he opened the decoy budget file, now renamed Live Transaction Feed. He was going to present random numbers as real-time military data. Another screenshot. That's falsifying federal information. Next, he opened email via web browser, composing a message to our CEO. Subject, the Gary problem solved, James. As suspected, the legacy employee left digital traps. This confirms my termination decision. I have the situation under control using new secure hardware I procured. The Lockheed pitch will proceed as planned. We're better off without him. New secure hardware I procured. I read aloud, taking another screenshot. That's claiming procurement of government property. The chaos was just the overture. The symphony was about to start. At 12:30, I put on my charcoal suit, the one for federal audits. Time to go to work. I pulled into Patriot Defense at 1:15 p.m., parking in visitor spots that felt strange after 15 years of reserved parking. 2 black Suburbans idled at the curb, tinted windows, government plates. They weren't hiding. I walked to the lead vehicle. Window rolled down, revealing Agent Ross, gray buzz cut, sunglasses, suit that looked slept in but cost more than my truck. Gary. He nodded. Get in. Backseat smelled like leather and serious business. Another agent sat beside me with a tablet. Status? Ross asked. Conference room B, laptop connected to projector, expecting Lockheed reps in 30 minutes. He's loaded slides claiming ownership of our encryption algorithms and presenting hardware as proprietary prototype. Ross shook his head. I've seen stupid, but this is PhD level stupid. It gets better, I said, pulling out my phone. Listen. I'd tapped the laptop's microphone, a feature for audit, notes that I'd left open. Scott's voice filled the SUV. Just stick that Intel sticker over the barcode, cover the government tag completely. These defense guys won't look at the bottom. They're old school. They just want to see blinking lights and hear buzzwords. The female agent tapped her tablet furiously, tampering with federal property markers, clear intent to deceive. He called Lockheed old school, Ross noted. That'll play well in court. What's the plan? I asked. We intercept before third parties arrive. Don't want Lockheed seeing our hardware, even in incompetent hands. We move now. We stepped out. The visual was striking. Me in sharp suit flanked by 4 federal agents with badges reading FBI and Department of Defense. We walked through glass lobby doors. Kelly at reception went pale seeing me with the cavalry. Gary, I thought you were just picking up my laptop, Kelly, I said gently. Scott in conference room B? Ross leaned over her desk without smiling. Ma'am, we are the interruption. He flashed credentials. Kelly buzzed us through immediately. Walking through the bullpen still in chaos from network outage, conversations died as we passed. The fired IT guy returning with federal backup. I caught Linda's eye across the room. She covered her mouth, eyes wide with shock and glee. I gave her the slightest wink. We reached conference room B. Scott's voice carried through doors. And that's why Patriot Defense is the exclusive partner for next-generation warfare financing. Ross looked at me. After you. I pushed doors open. Scott stood at table head in dimmed lighting, PowerPoint glowing blue behind him. Perfect modern executive, rolled sleeves, styled hair, laser pointer in hand. He froze mid-gesture. What the hell? Gary, what are you doing here? Security was supposed to... Then he saw silhouettes behind me. Ross stepped in, hitting lights. Harsh fluorescence washed out Scott's dramatic mood lighting, exposing forehead sweat. Who are these people? Scott demanded, voice cracking. This is a closed meeting. I have clients arriving in 10 minutes. Scott Palmer? Ross asked, stepping forward with quiet authority. Yes, I'm VP Technology, and you're trespassing. Special Agent Ross, Pentagon Inspector General. Agent Michelle, FBI Cyber Division. Scott blinked. Laser pointer shook, red dot dancing across screen. Pentagon? Scott laughed nervously. Is this a joke? Did Gary hire actors? This is pathetic. I walked to the table's side, set my briefcase down, crossed arms. It's not a joke, Scott. Ross moved deliberately around the table, stopping directly in front of Scott. We believe you're possessing classified government hardware, specifically SIPR Terminal Delta, 7791 Alpha. Scott scoffed. Hardware? The laptop? That's company property. I fired her, retained the asset. Standard procedure. Is it? Ross examined the laptop, then the screen. Mr. Palmer, are you claiming ownership of the technology displayed? Absolutely. I developed the integration strategy myself. Breakthrough innovation. Ross nodded to Agent Michelle. She tapped her tablet. On record, suspect claims ownership of classified encryption protocols. Suspect? Scott's face reddened. I know the CEO. I can have your badges revoked. The laptop, Scott, I interrupted. Tell them about the sticker you applied. What sticker? It's standard hardware. Windows machine. Ross put on nitrile gloves. Step away from the device, Mr. Palmer. No. Scott placed his hand protectively on the laptop lid. This is my presentation. My work. Ross's hand shifted toward his belt. Not drawing anything, but the posture change dropped room temperature 10 degrees. Scott stepped back quickly. Fine. Look at it. Just standard consumer hardware. The trap was closing. Gary, Ross said. Confirm serial number. I walked over and checked the side panel. Serial Delta 7791 Alpha confirmed. Check the underside. There's nothing on the underside, Scott protested. Just an Intel sticker. Standard consumer hardware. I looked at him. You checked or you placed? I flipped the laptop over. Right in the center was a shiny blue Intel Inside sticker, slightly crooked and obviously new. See? Scott smirked. Standard hardware. You're wasting everyone's time. You bought this sticker online, didn't you? I asked. Amazon. $5 for 10. I don't know what you're talking about. Agent Michelle stepped forward with tweezers. Scott flinched as she caught the sticker's edge with surgical precision. She peeled it back slowly. Adhesive gave way with a soft zip. Underneath was a metal plate riveted into the chassis, red and silver, text etched deep. Ross read aloud in the silent room. Property of U.S. Government, Department of Defense. Classified system. Secret clearance required. Unauthorized access, tampering, or removal is a federal felony punishable by up to 20 years imprisonment and fines not exceeding $500,000. Absolute silence. You could hear the HVAC system humming. Scott stared at the plate, mouth opening and closing. That wasn't there before. Gary put that there. She's framing me. Mr. Palmer, Ross said, standing straight. This plate is riveted and serial matched to our inventory from 3 years ago. We have digital logs of you accessing this device, bypassing security protocols, uploading personal data to classified drives, and instructing staff to conceal federal markings. Scott slumped against the whiteboard, marker tray rattling. But I was just trying to modernize operations. Streamline processes. You violated the Espionage Act, Ross said matter-of-factly. Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. By connecting this device to open internet, you compromised a federal node. Ross pulled handcuffs from his belt. Scott Palmer, you're under arrest. No, Scott whispered. I have a meeting. Lockheed is coming in 5 minutes. Lockheed isn't coming, I said. I canceled from your calendar 30 minutes ago. Told them you had a legal emergency. Scott looked at me, eyes wet, all arrogance gone. Just a scared kid in an expensive vest. Gary, please, tell them I didn't know. I'm not a spy, I was just doing my job. I thought about the redundant comment. The dinosaur tech dismissals, firing good people who knew what they were doing. Ignorance isn't a defense, Scott, I said, especially when you put stickers over federal warning labels. Ross spun him around. Click, click. You have the right to remain silent. They walked him out. Actual ugly sobbing now. As they passed, Ross stopped. Good work, Gary. We'll need a debrief statement tomorrow. I'll be there. Off the record, Ross nodded at the bagged laptop. Nice work containing the breach. You minimize the damage. Just doing my job. Even unemployed. Ross almost smiled. We'll see about that. The aftermath was swift and merciless. When FBI walks your VP out in handcuffs, word spreads fast. By 3 p.m., our CEO was in the lobby trying to explain to Agent Ross why his company harbored a national security risk. Ross wasn't interested in explanations. He issued an immediate stop work order on all government contracts. That's 75% of our revenue, gone with one signature. I watched from the parking lot. Didn't need to hear the panicked all-hands meeting about unforeseen challenges. 2 days later, my phone rang. The CEO. Gary, he said, voice thick with desperate charm. We owe you a massive apology. Scott was a rogue actor. He was your VP, I said, sipping coffee on my deck. We want you back. Title bump, salary increase. CTO position. Pentagon says they won't lift the suspension unless a trusted custodian is in charge. I looked out at my garden. Peaceful. No buzzwords floating around. No thanks. Gary, please. Name your price. Double salary, triple if necessary. It's not about money. It's about judgment. You let someone like Scott dismantle safeguards because he used words you liked. You didn't value expertise until the foundation cracked. We can change. We'll do better. Maybe. But you'll do it with external oversight. I'm consulting now. $350 an hour, 4-hour minimum. That's very expensive. That's market rate for preventing federal investigations. Long pause. And the synergy meetings? Team building exercises? I don't do synergy. I hung up. Scott's currently out on bail awaiting trial. His lawyer's attempting an incompetence defense, which is honestly the most accurate legal strategy I've heard. But the fraud charges from that pitch deck are sticking like glue. He's looking at federal prison time and permanent disqualification from any government-adjacent work. Career over at 28, all for a PowerPoint presentation. As for Patriot Defense, they hired my consulting firm after 2 weeks of Pentagon radio silence. I go in twice weekly wearing jeans instead of suits, fix their systems, charge appropriately for decades of expertise. Last week I logged into the admin console and found Scott's account still listed but disabled. I typed one command, delete user Spalmer, recursive, system prompted. This will permanently delete all associated files in history. Proceed, enter, user deleted, like he never existed. No more disruption, no more paradigm shifts. Just clean, efficient infrastructure doing what it was designed to do. I closed the terminal and walked out into crisp autumn air. Quiet satisfaction, nothing more. The kind that comes from watching competence win over confidence, experience triumph over enthusiasm. Sometimes the best revenge is just stepping aside and letting incompetence destroy itself. True authority comes from knowledge earned through years of actually doing the work, not from MBA theories about how work should be done. And if there's a moral to this story, it's simple. When someone calls your expertise dinosaur tech, make sure they know the difference between extinct and enduring. The fundamentals don't change just because someone invents new words for them. The quiet professionals usually know exactly what they're doing. It just takes time for everyone else to figure that out. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have actual work to do at $350 an hour. In the real world, systems fail when you replace the people who understand them with people who only understand PowerPoint presentations. 23 years of keeping things running beats 3 weeks of knowing how to talk about running things.